This might be the year that Antonio Brown sets all the records. 136 receptions last year, second most all time. And he's without, well, the Steelers are without Martavis Bryant, suspended for the year. Boneheaded dude. Keith Miller has retired. So Big Ben only has really one target to throw the ball to. Can he eclipse 2,000 yards as well? All these questions are going to be answered, and we're going to be recapping while previewing all the teams for the division. That was a terrible, terrible lead. Kyle Gaffner is here. I'm Adrian Fedko. I just butchered the shit out of that. But let's talk some AFC North.
He could do it. He is an incredible talent. He's the best receiver in the league. He's got the elusiveness. He's got the speed. He's got the jump cuts. Even if you double cover him, he's still going to get open. He's an incredible talent. And it's funny to see that in a league filled with people that are obsessed with giant, big receivers who are big-bodied and everything, and he's the total opposite.
Yeah, it's fitting he's got that Tetris haircut because he's a perfect piece for that Steelers offense. I'll tell you what, man, like you were just saying, very elusive in the open field. His jump cutting ability is extraordinary. He's got agility. His route running is unbelievable. Creates so much separation at the top of his routes. And, I just talked about it. I mean, they've got no one to throw the ball to. Marcus Wheaton? Are you fucking kidding me? Darius Hayward-Bay?
Oh.
Yeah, he's been a bust since the beginning. So they do have Ladarius Green. I do like him a little bit. We'll talk about him when we do the Steelers. But Antonio Brown, man, the way the NFL is right now, how pass-happy it is, this is definitely possible. And he's not one of the best receivers of all time by any means. But in today's NFL, he's the best one right now. And the way the Steelers, I mean, you got Big Ben throwing the ball. He put up all these numbers last year, and Landry Jones played, 4 games?
4 games for them, yeah.
So, there's no reason why he can't do it. It's definitely possible.
And his numbers were down, I think, 1 or 2 games when Big Ben didn't play because him and Landry got on a connection a little bit after the first game. He couldn't even go to him. It was sad to see. He might have even broke that 2,000-yard mark if Big Ben would have been healthy all last year.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the Steelers, okay? So I think they're the favorites probably to win this division. Do you have them winning the division?
I have them at a tie winning the division.
But do you have them winning the tiebreaker?
Yes, I have them winning the tiebreaker.
Okay, so you do have them winning the division. I have them winning the division as well. I have them at 11-5. And, we'll see because I like their offensive line. I obviously like their offense. I think their offense is top 3 in the league. Now, obviously, Le'Veon Bell is probably going to be suspended. So we'll see how the offense can manage without him those first couple games.
They'll be okay.
Yeah, they'll be all right. So you got Big Ben. You got Antonio Brown. You still got all those guys. And I really like that offensive line, the way it's starting to shape up there. It's very underrated. You got David DeCastro. That's your stud. You got Pouncey as the center. That's your stud. Marcus Gilbert. Not too many people know how good he is. But the big revelation last season was the acquisition of Alejandro Villanueva. Now, this guy isn't by no means a star or anything, but they've had trouble at left tackle for years. Now, Kelvin Beachum did a good job for them before he, injured himself, and now he's with Jacksonville. But they've been lacking a left tackle for years. Alejandro Villanueva has the talent to not necessarily become an elite guy, but he's very solid for what they need. I mean, he's just learning how to play the position, and he was great last year. Mike Munchak has done a great job with that offensive line.
I like Mike Munchak, and I think the Steelers' offense is going to be okay because there's some underrated guys there. D'Angelo Williams had a great season, because of that offensive line up there, and he's still got some pedal to the metal there. He's a little bit older, but he can still catch out of the backfield. He can still hit the open holes. And you got Sammy Coates too. Not a lot of guys know about him. He was a rookie last year, a little bit raw, but he's really coming into his own. So I think that's going to help open some doorways up for him when Antonio's getting doubled. And Ladarius Green is pretty good as well. I mean, he's no Heath Miller, but yeah, this offensive line, DeCastro is a beast, and so is Pouncey. He's had a couple injuries over the past couple years, so I want to see how he bounced back from that.
Yeah, and even their left guard, Ramon Foster, not anything to scoff at there either. You brought up Sammy Coates. He's like a burner type. He doesn't have the greatest hands. He still doesn't really know how to run a route, but he's only a second-year player, and he does have some talent. So we'll see how he kind of fares this season. I mean, I'd rather have him right now than fucking Darius Hayward back.
Yeah, he's a complete joke. A huge bust. Another mistake from the old regime of the Raiders drafting big guys that just run fast.
Yeah. That's what they love, man.
Sad. The list goes on for how many guys they took.
Yeah. Now, the question for the Steelers is the defense. The defense is not like those old steel curtain ways. You know, when you think Pittsburgh football, you think defense. But right now, that defense isn't that hot.
They're young, too. They have a little bit. They're trying to build it to like the old days. Even when they were good back in 2005, they had a solid run defense. They had good linebackers. Their secondary was decent. Nothing crazy, but it was always run and pound, and then just Pittsburgh Steelers defense. They would just shut everybody down. Now they're trying to get back there. They're trying to build that group of linebackers there. I really like Ryan Shazier, but he cannot seem to stay healthy for some reason. Jarvis Jones has been okay, a little bit of a bust in my opinion for where they took him. I like Cam Hayward down there. I like him. Stephen Tuitt. I like him there too. And they drafted Artie Burns. And they got a safety, Sean Davis, out of there. So they're going to be thrown into starting roles in their young career. So it's interesting to see what they do. But they're very young. And they lost the key piece in Dick LeBeau. That was a huge loss to that defense because he was there for, God, I don't even know, 35. He's been there longer than I've been alive.
He was there for a while. Now, yeah, I mean, I'll say this. The inside linebackers are solid. Lawrence Timmons, Ryan Shazier. That's a nice little duo as long as Shazier can stay healthy. Their problem has become the outside linebackers. I mean, they keep drafting these guys in the first round, and like not too many of them are materializing. I believe James Harrison led the team in sacks last year, and
that's sad.
I mean, he's 38 years old now. So Jarvis Jones has been a bust. Bud Dupree is promising. He's only a second-year guy. Arthur Moss is like whatever. He's okay, but you look at so they don't pressure the quarterback really well, and that's not a good thing considering how limited they are at cornerback. So Ross Cockrell emerged last year. He's okay, but William Gay. Now, obviously, you talk about Artie Burns, Senquez Golson. I mean, who the hell knows? You need depth at cornerback right now. Right now, nickel defenses are basically your base defense right now. Teams are trotting 3 or more wide receivers out 65% of the time. And the Steelers, they don't have any cornerback depth. So they traded for Brandon Boykin last year. He didn't pan out. So they can't pressure the quarterback, and they don't have a good secondary. So that's the problem for me with that defense. But other than that, I mean, you talk about Cam Hayward, Tuitt. These guys are solid. Inside linebackers are solid. But are they going to be able to stop teams from passing the ball on them?
Probably not, and I think it's going to have to rely a lot on the offense to be blowing teams out because of how shaky the defense is. Much like we saw many years in Indianapolis with the Colts when they had a putrid defense but an outstanding offense. So it's going to have to rely a lot on Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, I'm with you. So I got them going 11-5. I have them winning the division basically because they're just going to outscore people, and that's what I think is going to happen. The defense isn't that great. It's a work in progress. They've got some pieces, but they're still a year or two away from at least being in the top half of the league defensively.
Yeah, absolutely. I still think they're in contention to be possibly in the Super Bowl because of how powerful that offense is. Yep. It just depends if they come together or not and play as a unit, and those young guys step up. I have them going 12-4. So.
Okay. Yeah, I got them going 11-5. So, all right. So we basically have them both in the same ballpark. The next team we'll talk about. Let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm assuming that's the team you got tying the Steelers up top.
Exactly.
Okay. So you got them going 12-4. I've got them going 10-6. But here's the big question. Okay. Can they win a playoff game?
That's been the question for the longest time. They haven't been able to get over that hump, that first round. They just keep getting knocked out. And I feel so bad for Marvin Lewis. They should have advanced last year, but their boneheaded plays by Vonkez Perfect and Pac-Man, it killed them. The two knuckleheads.
Agony. I mean, it's round 8 now. So you got this is what's crazy. Marvin Lewis is the winningest head coach in Bengals franchise history. He's got 112 wins. He's guided them to 7 of their 14 all-time playoff appearances. Like, he's got half of them. But he's got no wins to show for it. 7 straight one-and-dones. 4 of them have come at home. That's ridiculous. So we'll see. I mean, now, I think they are going to win a playoff game this year. Just by the way, I've been kind of doing my predictions, the way things are turning out, because the AFC is not very good. And if Andy Dalton stays healthy, I think they will win a playoff game. And let's get to Andy Dalton right now. So he was having a great year, right, under Hugh Jackson. Had his best year of his career. Now, Hugh Jackson is no longer there. He's in Cleveland now. So is Andy Dalton, can he translate what he did last year into this season?
Going to be interesting to see. And there's that love-hate relationship there with Bengals fans, too, with Andy Dalton. You either love him or hate him. And it seems like the hate is more than the love for the Red Rocket out there. But he's losing a huge part in Hugh Jackson. I think he was a whole reason he was even successful a lot of times, because he's like a QB guru, much like Adam Gase is. Hugh Jackson. He just knows how to coach. So I don't think he's going to replicate what he did last year, and it might hinder his production.
I've got the numbers here in front of me. So completed 66.1% of his passes, 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and that was before he had his thumb injury. He had an AFC high quarterback rating, 106.2. But here's the thing, man. You can put up all the numbers in the world, but if you can't win a playoff game, no one fucking gives a shit.
It doesn't matter. All those numbers go right out the window. If you can't advance, doesn't matter. You can have all those wins during the regular season. The postseason is what matters the most.
Yep. So the guy doesn't have a cannon. I mean, see, it's weird because, like, I don't think he has that strong of an arm. I've seen him get erratic with his accuracy, but he you know, where the quarterback guru, where that's come into play, like last year, I thought his mechanics got a lot better, and his footwork was better. His release was a little bit more compact. So that's what needs to translate into this year. If he can consistently do that, I think he'll be all right. He's good on the move. He throws well on the move, and I don't think people really know this. But it's like almost like Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford has the same kind of ability of throwing on the move, even though you may not think about it because of his knees. So and Dalton, I mean, he's a pasty little ginger. You wouldn't think about him throwing on the move, but that's something he does really well.
He's good at that. He's got great receivers. They lost Marvin Jones, and they lost Mohamed Sanu. They still got plenty of weapons. They got Gio Bernard out there. He's great out of the backfield. He can catch and run. They got the Ponder and Jeremy Hill, and they've got the young kid I really like, Tyler Boyd, out of Pittsburgh, who I think is going to step up and replace these guys. And then you got the touchdown machine, Tyler Eifert. He's injured now, and that's the problem with this team. It's going to be interesting to see what they do because they've been decimated by injury.
Yeah. And, you know, they need another guy to step up besides A.J. Green. That's the problem with them. But I do like Eifert. The guy's a red zone monster. He had 13 touchdowns last year. Now, hopefully for their sake, they can produce some more in the running game, because Jeremy Hill, he averaged, I believe it was 3.6 yards per carry last year. He came off a really, really solid rookie season. Second year, not so great. He had that big fumble, too, in the AFC wildcard game in that loss against the Steelers. So, I mean, if he can put it together, they do have a solid 1-2 punch, because you got the scat back type and Gio Bernard, quick, elusive in the open field. He's better with in space with the ball in his hands, more of a pass catcher. And then you got Jeremy Hill, more of a bruiser, in between tackles type of runner. But last year, man, I mean, he finished with 3.6 yards per carry, but that average was like 3.1 or 3.0 for a while. It's like Ryan Howard's batting average right now.
It was ugly. It dropped tremendously. You thought coming off that hot rookie season, he was going to come back and have at least 1,000-yard, 1,200-yard seasons. With the way he was running with ease. He was making Swiss cheese out of defenses out there. And then just the fumbles killed him. He had like 5 or 6 fumbles, and then that huge one in the playoff game. It was like, hold on to the ball, put some tar, some glue, something. Just hold on to the ball, hold on to the rock. You're a running back. You're huge too. But it seems like he's got his head in the game. We're watching him preseason. It's all business. He's not dancing. He's not showboating anymore. So I think he might have it all together now. I think it really pissed him off what happened last year. I think he took a lot of heat for it too. So he's got his head in the game, and it's not going to have to fall on the Red Rocket this year. It's going to have to be a team effort. But they just have to get healthy because, my God, I don't know if they are deep too, but these young guys are going to have to step the next man up, as we always say. This is going to happen for this team because Eifert's out. You got Croft out. You got their 2 top rookies are out. Burfict is suspended for four games. Your 2 young tackles are out. It could be ugly out there in Cincinnati. I don't know if we're going to see the downfall again, but I'm thinking they're going to be able to step up and pound the rock and do good, because the second best receiver on this team now is not even a wideout. It's Giovanni Bernard. And if you're doubling A.J. Green, which is going to happen, your young wide receivers or your young tight ends are going to have to step up.
Now, before we get to the defense, I want to talk about Andrew Whitworth just a second, because I think he gets lost in the shuffle when talking about the elite tackles in the game. And even the way he plays, I mean, he's not graceful by any means. He's not the most athletic. The way he blocks, it can look very, very awkward. He gets stiff. But the thing is once he latches onto a guy, that guy never breaks free from him. This guy is an exceptional pass blocker. Strong punch. He knocks these rushers off balance, so he's very strong, has a lot of power to drive guys backwards. So what are your thoughts on Andrew Whitworth? I mean, I can't remember exactly where I had him in my rankings. I think I had him like 3rd or 4th best tackle in the league.
I love Andrew Whitworth, and I think he is underrated, and I think he gets lost because he plays in a smaller city. He's been great for 8 to 9 years out there. He's solid. He's big. He's like a nimble giant out there. He does look stiff sometimes, but he's a huge monster. He's like an ogre. It's like Shrek out there. He just grabs onto people and throws them out of the way. He's a Mack truck. I mean, you're talking clear in the way for these guys. He's a monster, and they even tried kicking him over to guard, and he did good last year when they were doing that shuffle out there in Cincinnati when they were having key injuries. The guy, you could place him anywhere, left tackle, right side, left guard. He's a monster.
Yeah. All right, let's get on to the defense now. Geno Atkins, like, awesome to see him bounce back because he had that, I believe it was an Achilles injury 2 years ago, or was it an ACL? I don't remember off the top of my head, but he had an injury, and he didn't bounce back right away. And fans were, they were a little concerned. But last year, he was back to being his normal self, just being a beast. I believe he had 11 sacks, which led all defensive tackles. So clearly one of the best in the game on the defensive side of the ball.
Very, very. I'm glad he came back. I think he's a little underrated too. He doesn't get much love. D tackles rarely do because they're the inside. They're not the defensive ends. But he's so quick. He's like an Aaron Donald type, or Aaron Donald's more like a Geno Atkins because he's swift. He can do the punch, and he's a little guy. He's undersized, but he's incredible. He's quick. He can get to the running backs. You can even put him out in space. He's awesome. And it was an ACL that he was coming back from.
Yeah. Okay. Now, yeah, because you talked about the quickness. I mean, this guy, the quickness is unparalleled. Like his first step is just ridiculous, and we didn't see that following the injury, but he's back to being his old ways. Now, the other guy that's very, very underrated is Carlos Dunlap. He had 13.5 sacks last year, so he had even more than Atkins. Obviously, he's a defensive end, but this guy is, very athletic for a guy's size. I think he's like 6'6", so he's a big guy. Now he doesn't really like have an elite trait, so to speak, but he does everything because he can stop the run and get after the quarterback, and he's very, very underrated talent. Again, it's because he's in Cincinnati.
These guys get overlooked because they've everybody thinks is the Bengals as being the Bungles for so long. It's kind of weird to see them being good, but they are. He can get to the quarterback. He's got long arms. He can lean. He can do a punch, a spin. He can do a lot. And actually, they had a really nice tandem out there with Michael Johnson and Carlos Dunlap, with Gino there in the middle, and Petco too. A lot of people forget about him, but Carlos Dunlap is very underrated. He's a double-digit sack guy. That unit is plays so well together, and I think he could go to the left or the right. You can put him anywhere on the defensive line. But when Michael Johnson left, I think he's an overrated player, so to speak. We can get into that later. But
I forgot to do that with the Steelers. Yeah, we're supposed to go team by team, do overrated, underrated players. I'm with you on Michael Johnson being overrated because he was so good for all those years in Cincinnati. Then he went to Tampa Bay, stunk up the joint, back in Cincinnati, and he's still not back to his old ways. So I'm with you there. The underrated guy I'll give you is Vincent Ray. This guy is a backup, but he shouldn't be. He's better than Ray Malaluga. He can play everywhere. I believe he led the team in tackles last year, even though he wasn't even a starter. But he's very versatile. He can play anywhere, outside linebacker, all three linebacker spots. And with Vontaze Burfict being out, I mean, it almost doesn't matter because you can just plug right in there.
Their linebackers are actually pretty good because Vontaze Burfict, I mean, I believe he went undrafted because of off the field issues. So, I mean, he's a complete stud. He's a leader on that defense in the linebacking core. I had Carlos Dunlap as my underrated guy, but we had already touched on him. I like Ray Malaluga, too. There's a lot of guys. I like Darquez Denard, who doesn't get to play that much because of his injury. Drake Kirkpatrick. I mean, it's a very deep Cincinnati team. They lost Reggie Nelson, and they just have guys step up. It's loaded. And Michael Johnson, I don't think, when he left and got that huge contract, I think that he's just more of a team player. He's not really like a single one-on-one guy that's going to dominate a game, like a defensive pass rusher that's going to take over a game.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like you could like literally go anywhere on this defense. They're underrated. George Iloka, the safety, even their other safety, Sean Williams, taking over for Reggie Nelson. I mean, he's pretty good too. So anywhere along that Cincinnati youth defense, you can find a guy. You can talk about anybody, and they're underrated.
They really are, and that's what's going to propel them. I think their defense, opposite of what the Steelers are going to do, their defense is going to carry them into the playoff hunt this year.
Yeah. All right, going back to the Steelers just real quick. Do you have any underrated, overrated players for them, just so we don't forget?
I think Timmons is underrated. Everything that he's done, I think he's made one Pro Bowl, maybe two. But the guy has been a leader on that defense for so long. He's a tackling machine. He can cover. He can stop the run. So he's my underrated player. Overrated player, I don't know. The Steelers really don't have overrated players, I feel. They're kind of like the Patriots in that sense. They just get guys in their system. And you know what? Jarvis Jones, I would say, is probably overrated, even though it's been a small sample size, because this dude was supposed to be like the next thing coming out of college. He was the best pass rusher in his draft class, and he just floundered out and did nothing. He was very cocky and arrogant. I think that has a lot to do with his play.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like it's hard to give overrated guys. It's a lot easier to do underrated players. Now I'll throw a name. I'll say Vince Williams, their linebacker. When Ryan Shazier went out, this guy stepped up and he played really, really well from what I saw. I think Stephon Tuitt is a little underrated too. I think he's pretty good. I don't know who's overrated. I really don't have anything. I'm kind of with you there. I talked about Villanueva too. Kind of underrated there as a tackle. So I'm not going to get. I mean, Jarvis Jones. I mean, I don't know if he's overrated per se. He's more of a disappointment, I guess, is the right or better word there. But that would be the overrated guy, I guess I would pick. I'm with you.
Yeah, because there's really not one to pick, so it's tough to grab at a guy for the Steelers, that is.
Yeah. All right, Cincinnati. I mean, if I had to guess an overrated guy, I mean, you either think he's overrated, underrated, or in between. But overrated, I think it's Andy Dalton. I'm not an Andy Dalton fan.
I'm not an Andy Dalton fan either.
So I'll go with Andy Dalton.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Michael Johnson. Is that what you're about to say?
Yeah, that was my underrated or overrated guy.
No, that's a good one too. All right, let's move on to Baltimore. Actually, you didn't say you have Bengals going 12-4, right?
I did, yeah.
That. Okay. All right, Baltimore time. Ravens. They were just riddled with injuries last year. They had their most injuries during the Jim Harbaugh era, or John Harbaugh era, and it was the first time that they weren't able to finish over 500. Where did they go? They were what, 5-11 or
5-11.
5-11. So Joe Flacco is now back. But I'll tell you what, I don't really think too much of this team.
There's not much. This is the most depleted Ravens team I've ever seen because as long as I remember, they've been dominant in the AFC. They're always a really good team, always well coached. Ozzie Newsome's one of the best, GMs out there. Awesome. But there's not much talent on this team anymore. You got Joe Flacco. Who else can you grab? I mean, Steve Smith, but he's way past his prime, so he'll be out next year. But it's Terrell Suggs is over the hill now. I mean, he's pretty much gone. He's even been ballsy enough to say and come out that that they're Super Bowl bound. I mean, Sizzle, I don't know what you're thinking, but you guys are in the bottom of the league this year.
Oh man, the hills have eyes, Mr. Terrell Suggs. They're just like very just
average.
And I do have them at 8-8. Just very, very average. Justin Forsett had a good year 2 years ago, kind of fell off a little bit last year once he got that contract. They do have a stud at guard. I'll give them that. Love Marshall Yanda. I think he's the best guard in the game. But other than that, man, I mean, you got not much else. They have like promising pieces on defense. The defense is almost like in a transition a little bit, and they're still pretty good, I guess. I like C.J. Mosley. I love Brandon Williams. They drafted another guy last year, Carl Davis, rookie. He's another nose tackle. Tim Jernigan's okay. So they have some players, but like I don't know. Terrell Suggs, like he says, over the hill. Dumerville's not getting any younger. Jimmy Smith, I mean, he got a big contract, and he didn't really fare well last year either.
He wasn't that impressive, and they've tried to have been replacing the superstar and Hall of Famers that they had on that defense at one time. You had Haloti Ngata at the nose, and you had obviously Ray Lewis at the middle linebacker, and then Ed Reed back there in center field. So they've been trying to find younger guys. They whiffed on Matt Elam. He's been a huge disappointment. I think they hit on C.J. Mosley. He's been very impressive. He's going to be a really good linebacker. But who on that defensive line is really going to take over? Yeah, Carl Davis, you touched on from Iowa, is pretty good. They got the mountain from Alabama. His name is leaving me, but he's lost. Timmy Jernigan from Florida State's pretty decent. But it's where are these guys going to come from? Where is that pass rush going to come from? Courtney Upshaw that they drafted never panned out. He's gone. So it's interesting to see what that iconic Ravens defense that we're used to seeing is what's it gonna become.
Remember I was talking about Pittsburgh and like not having a pass rush with a weak secondary? Kind of the same thing in Baltimore. Because Jimmy Smith, I mean, he's okay, but Kyle Arrington, ever since he's been there, he hasn't been any good. I hate Sharice Wright. I believe that Will Davis, their other cornerback. So the cornerbacks stink. Dumerville's still okay, but like again, it's like these guys are getting old. What can they expect out of Terrell Suggs? And I mean, I don't know. I'm not high on the Ravens. They've always been boring though anyway. So maybe they'll be better than I think, but I'm just not feeling this team.
I'm not feeling it either. And Flacco, there's not much magic he's going to be able to do with and then you look at the offensive side. I mean, they lost Kimio Similier. Sorry for butchering his name. I don't think I said that right.
Yeah, it's close.
He was really good. They had really two guards, but he went for Oakland. They still have Yanda there. They lost that left tackle. I cannot think of his name. Eugene Monroe. They lost. He retired, but they drafted Ronnie Staley, so that's going to be his replacement. So you got a young left tackle to protect Joe Flacco. But who's he going to throw to? Steve Smith is 38, 39 years old, coming off of a huge injury, Achilles injury. Brashard Perryman is hurt again and out for yet another season. So he was supposed to be their young and promising wideout that never really turned into anything, so he's gone. It's like,
Is he out for the season?
yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I'll look that up as I talk. I guess I'll try to do two things at once. I do like Kamar Aiken a little bit. He kind of broke out a little bit last year.
He busted
But, like,
on.
other than that, what's that?
I know. I was saying he busted onto the scene last year.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Perriman might play in their preseason finale, so it looks like he's all right.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, he did get hurt though. I don't know what happened, but okay. Well, I mean, I'm not high on him anyway. I didn't like him out of college. He wasn't like a polished route runner. He's one of those guys that's just fast and doesn't really do anything else right now. And I'm not a big Perriman fan. Apparently he lost his dreads and apparently lost a lot of weight because of that.
Oh, wow, really? From the injury?
No, he cut his dreads. Like his dreads were like down the ear.
Oh, he lost weight from his dreads being cut.
Yeah. I was making a kind of a joke. Who else do they have at receiver?
They got Max Williams, who's promising, but he's at tight end.
I actually do like the tight ends. Crockett Gilmore, Max Williams. They got another guy. I can't remember his name. You got Dennis Pitta still there.
Yeah, Dennis Pitta's still there.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, whatever. I have him at 8-8. Where do you have him?
Oh, I got him way. I have him way worse. I'm at 5-11.
Okay, so you got him going the same thing as last year. Let's see. Underrated, overrated. I guess overrated. I mean, Elvis Dumervil and Terrell Suggs are kind of easy right now because they're older. I guess Justin Forsett might be a little overrated.
Yeah, coming off of one good season, he would be overrated. Trying to think. Arthur. Oh my God, Matt Elam is way overrated.
He's not even going to be a safety there. They signed Eric Weddle, and you got Ladarius Webb is making the transition from cornerback to safety there.
Safety, and we've been seeing that.
Arthur Brown, you right?
Arthur Brown, that was the name, and he's been a huge disappointment too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not high on him either. I guess for like underrated, I guess I'll go Brandon Williams because nose tackles don't get any love, and I really do like C.J. Mosley a lot. So those would probably be my two underrated guys, and maybe Max Williams. I like Max Williams.
I like Max Williams a lot. I think he's going to be a breakout year this year. Usually tight ends don't do good in the rookie seasons anyway, but he's like a Todd Heap type. And we remember that connection back in the day when Todd Heap was just overtaken. So I think he's going to have a breakout season this year.
Yeah. Okay. Last team in the division.
Oh,
the Browns.
God, just the name just turns you off.
We're not going to spend much time on the Cleveland Browns, but I'll say this: I love Hugh Jackson. I do. I like him a lot. And they just made a move today. They cut Andy Lee. They didn't cut him out. They traded Andy Lee because there was a play over the weekend. Well, I think on Thursday night they played where Andy Lee did not try to make an attempt on a tackle on a punt. And Hugh Jackson is making an impact immediately. He's like, I ain't going to stand for this shit. And he traded him. I don't care how good Andy Lee is as a punter. That was the right fucking move because he's putting his stamp on the team. That's what it's about. Doesn't matter how great of a punter he is. They're going 1-15 this year anyway. So you don't stand for that shit. You get rid of them. And I love it.
I love it because it sets a tone and it makes a statement. Like, I don't care how good you are. It doesn't matter if you're the star punter, a star quarterback. You're out of here. You don't do that. And I like when coaches do that and they don't give special privileges to these superstars, so to speak. Not saying Andy Lee's a superstar, but to better players, like they don't have to do it where guys are trying to make the team that are throwing it all out there. So good for you. I love Hugh Jackson. He's a really good coach. It's a shame he's in Cleveland. But he deserves a head coaching job, and I think they finally start to turn around with his impact. If they don't fire him after year 1 or 2, that is. Coaches don't last that long anymore.
Dude, I love when he has the formations where he does the double bunch formations with tackles out there as wide receivers. I fucking love that shit. Like his quirkiness with some of his formations, I fucking love it. I love watching his offenses play.
They're exciting to watch. He mixes it up. It's not just the same old stale plays over and over again. You never know he's going to throw at you.
Yeah, so it's like this team is going to suck, but I'm going to like watching them play because of Hugh Jackson. And there are some interesting storylines there. I mean, what's RG3 going to do? You got Josh Gordon coming back. You got Terrell Pryor trying to make that transition from quarterback to wide receiver, and he's looked pretty good right now. He's a sleeper of mine in fantasy drafts for you guys. They got a good offensive line. Their defense is a fucking abomination. But yeah, but that offense, I mean, it's kind of fun to watch. Duke Johnson is second year back, kind of a scat back. He's exciting to watch. So they have some pieces there on offense, at least.
And the connection, what we've seen in preseason between the Baylor connection with Josh Gordon and RG3, it's been looking good. Even with Terrell Pryor being a deep threat, it seems that more and more of these quarterbacks are coming out and changing the position. These scatty quarterbacks that ran a lot in college are just converting over. That, Tim Tebow should have done this too, but we won't get into that. But it's exciting to see what they're going to do. Josh Gordon, that he's reinstated, so that's huge for the Browns because other than that, what were they going to have? Like, we don't know what Terrell Pryor is going to be, but I like Duke Johnson too. And their left side of their offensive line is incredible. You got Joe Bentonio, and Joe Thomas is a stud still. And they moved Cam Irvin back to his proper position at center because Alex Mack didn't want to be in Cleveland anymore and didn't want to play for this abomination, putrid brown and orange team anymore. So he's like, get me out of here. I'm going to the ATL. So I think it's going to be a lot better running style for them. And they got Gary Barnidge. He was a huge surprise for them at tight end last year. So, but that defense, oh my God. I can't name one good player on that team. Nate Orchard's okay. He's up and coming.
Well, they do have Joe Hayden.
Joe Hayden.
But Joe Hayden hasn't been good in 2 years. He's actually been pretty bad the last 2 years.
Injury riddled too.
He's injury riddled and he's in Cleveland, so it's kind of hard to get motivated. Now they made some moves. They cut Paul Kruger. They traded Barkevius Mingo. So they're getting rid of some of their disappointments, I guess. Hugh Jackson's come in there. He's trying to make an impact.
He's trimming the fat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of who the fuck is on that defense. They drafted Danny Shelton last year. He stunk. They were the worst.
Gilbert, wow, huge bust.
Huge bust. He got passed by an undrafted rookie on that fucking first season when he was there, Kawan Williams. I guess we'll just get to underrated, overrated because there's no point in keep talking about this team.
Can I point out one thing before we do that?
Go ahead.
Since the past 6 years, just let me list the guys that they drafted. Okay, so 2011 they had Trent Richardson and then Phil Taylor, who are no longer on the team. Okay, we got Brandon.
They're no longer in the NFL.
Well, completely no-namers. Nobody wants them in the team. You got Brandon Whedon in 2012, scrub. Kiki Mingo was a top 5 or top 10 pick. He's gone. You got Justin Gilbert at number 8. You could have had Sammy Watkins. What are you doing, Cleveland? And Johnny Football in that year. Danny Shelton was a disappointment last year, and Cam Irvin's good. So, and then they got Corey Coleman this year. So they're trying to, like you said, revamp this team, give it a new identity. Corey Coleman's an explosive player, so you team him with Josh Gordon and then Terrell Pryor to see what we can do. Now we can get to it. But they've been this bad for this long because they don't know how to draft. And Joe Hayden was the last guy.
It's funny because, this Eagles trade that they just made, getting more picks, this is the third time they've done this in, the last 5 years. And they never, ever hit on their picks. So they make these trades and they never pan out. They always get on the losing end of these trades. They traded with the Bills. You used to talk about Sammy Watkins there. Well, they traded back. Fuck, man.
You add first-round picks to better your team, and then you just take these guys that you don't need and you completely whiff on them. Get rid of your scouts, your scouting directors, your GMs. They just all have to go, Cleveland. I'm sorry, but it's time. They're just so bad.
They did overhaul like their department because they tried to add like analytics people.
Yeah, guys from baseball. There you go. That was a great move.
Hey, that's better than what they've had. So
yeah, maybe they'll go a different route. That's true. Switch it up.
yeah. All right, I guess we can get to the overrated, underrated now. Overrated, I'll go Joe Hayden for overrated. I still had him as a top 10 corner, but he's been top 5 on prior lists, and he's not top 10 anymore. So, well, he's still top 10, but he shouldn't be. But I still have him there because even I overrate him. So that's my overrated guy. Underrated, there's not much there. It's slim pickings, but you can go with some of their guys on the offensive line. Joel Bitonio is
very underrated.
Perfect example of a guy that's underrated. This guy was just about as good as Zach Martin his rookie season, and he's in his 3rd year now, just like Martin. So I'll go with him. I'll go with Kwan Williams as an underrated cornerback because he was undrafted, even though he's not going to start for them. Tremont Williams is their other starter with Hayden. So those are the guys. And I'll throw a Christian Kirksey at you.
I was going to throw Christian Kirksey was one of my underrated guys.
There you go. So I should have just named one guy because I stole your thunder.
That's okay. It was slim pickings anyway, so there wasn't much to pick from anyway. It's not like we have a slew of all-stars in Cleveland. So my overrated guy, I was going to say Paul Kruger, but they cut him. I mean, I can't even pick an overrated guy on this team. There's like nobody. It's Joe, but the Hogs never get any love. I would say Joe Thomas now is a little bit more overrated. I don't think he's as good as he was 3 years ago. He's really lost a step, but that's really reaching because I still think he's a really good tackle.
Well, I do have him as the top tackle in the game, even though I agree with you. Like, I still have him as the best. But I didn't rate him as high this year as previous seasons. So even though he's number 1, he did lose some points.
Yeah, so that would be my guys for the putrid Cleveland Browns. I mean, maybe that's why they made that movie Draft Day to kind of boost their morale because they get good picks on that. And LeBron did bring a championship, so maybe everything's looking up for the state of Ohio.
That movie Draft Day was fucking dumb.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Kevin Costner.
It was like the most unrealistic fucking draft scenario. Like okay. So they're going to trade up to number 1, not take the guy that they want, but then somehow they were able to make another trade that what?
It was the whole thing about trading that trades that would never happen.
Exactly. It's just like dumb as shit. Whatever. Like so it's like they trade up to number 1 to take a guy that they could have taken where they drafted.
Yeah, number 8. It was like, why did you go through all this? You just wasted 2 hours of my life for some guy you could have taken at number 1. Oh, Kevin Costner, you just keep making your terrible movies.
All right, you got a record for the Browns?
Oh, yes, I do. 2-14.
Okay, so 2-14. I got 1-15. So over under 1.5 for the Browns this year.
And that's being generous with that second win.
Dude, like I went through that schedule and I don't even remember who it was. I think it might have been like San Diego or Tennessee. I don't remember who it was. But they have a home game against one like winnable opponent.
It's what right that it's the home game that they might win. That's why I was like, they might be the Ravens, but I don't know. Cleveland is just so bad.
Like I wasn't gonna put 0-16.
No, I mean we're not the 09. Was it the 09 Lions that did that? I think it was the 09 Lions.
I know it was the Lions. That's all I know. I don't remember which year already, but yeah, that wraps it up for the AFC North. That's Kyle Gaffner. I'm Adrian Fetju. AFC South coming up next. We're out. Later.